Not your average tabletop. Woohoo!
Hey everyone, welcome back to Nacho Average Tabletop. I'm Mac.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Pepper.
And today we are recounting our journey to Las Vegas and the World Series of Board Gaming and our experience there.
Yeah, it was the first ever World Series of Board
First ever.
And we had actually gotten invited in a way, gotten some kind of free tickets to go.
Shout out to Brian.
Yes, for that very generous offer. So yeah, it was one thing that we had kind of, when we first heard about it, at least Pepper and I were like, oh, this sounds really cool, really exciting for kind of a tournament. And it was a lot of games that we had played, but there were some that we hadn't played. Yeah. We still haven't played them because we did not, sadly, get to the finals. But even if we had, if it was the same games that got picked, there was only one in the semifinals and finals that we hadn't played. So we would have gotten lucky if we had, maybe. But it was something that sounded pretty cool, but we weren't sure. We were just a little bit nervous, I think, on how aggressive other players would be. Because it was the grand prize of $25,000, which is crazy. And kind of, once you start playing for money like that, it kind of becomes, maybe it won't be as fun, and it's just going to be more like really taking it really seriously, taking on, some of the best players in the world, possibly people, I don't know, getting upset or something, and it's like, I just wasn't sure, I don't know if that's my type of gaming exactly. But yeah, since we got the generous 2 passes, we decided we'd try it out, and then we brought you along as a guest. We upgraded one of them to a guest, to bring one guest along. So
you weren't going to Vegas without me.
Right. You hadn't been there the one other time I'd been there.
Yeah.
Non-board gaming related. But so we ended up choosing to go.
Yeah.
So we flew out.
Yep, we flew out on Wednesday, September 28th, and we left at 4:30 a.m. for our 7 something flight or whatever.
I decided to just stay up through the night.
That's right.
I'm just not going to get to sleep early enough.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, we were flying from Minnesota, so it kind of is a little messed up on the time zones and stuff. We didn't, looking back, we didn't necessarily have to leave that early. I just wasn't sure kind of exactly how things were going to work, and that was kind of the first day everything was sort of opening up and starting. But we didn't have any games to play on tournament-wise on Wednesday, so it wasn't like we had to be there, but we did leave quite early.
Quite early, which means we landed quite early in Vegas. I think we got there around 9:30, and the airport was only 12 minutes from the Vegas Strip, and this is actually hosted in Bally's.
And I think it's a place that's changing their name too or something. I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, I don't remember what it's going to be called.
Oh, well, that's fun.
But yeah. Currently Bally's.
Yeah, currently Bally's. So it's hosted there, and so you also got a room deal when you booked your World Series ticket or whatever. So we went to Bally's. We're a little early for our check-in time, but we just decided to check in early, get everything situated. And then I was tired. I think we kind of walked around, looked for the center a little bit to see kind of where we were supposed to be, kind of look for times, kind of when it opened, what to kind of expect. And then I was tired, so I went to the room and took a nap. So, and you guys went out to gamble.
Yes.
Get a little Vegas taste.
Right. Yeah. Especially since, it was, I think my hope was to kind of be in there since we knew the Dice Tower West Library was going to be available. Figured a lot of the time we'd probably be spending actually either playing in the tournament or playing games. So that was kind of my thought as well. We'll do this now because I don't know what our plans will be, if we'll get back to it or not. It's obviously very accessible because there's a casino right in there. So if you really wanted to get in there and do some more gambling, it's right there. Pretty much just a short walk
and
away.
Bally's is connected to, I forget what it's called, but it's basically the French casino through like an internal walkway. So you can go into the other side too. There.
Yeah, you can get. I think you can kind of get
everywhere
wherever you want. I'm sure if any of you have been to Vegas for non-board gaming related things, you probably know the strip better than we even ended up knowing it, because we really didn't. We didn't really go
stuck to
too
our
far.
2 blocks.
But,
so. Yeah, so then when we got back, then the Dice Tower library was open, so we went ahead and played Merchant's Cove on Wednesday. Yeah. And that was the only game we played that day. I think you guys played Metro X on the plane ride out there.
Yeah, I got some games in the air.
Yes.
Worked really well. I think that's a great game, and there's so many other Android games that would work perfectly too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we went on a hike to find Subway. So we found Subway for supper. Then we went back to the room, ate, and then we got ready for bed. And then Zach,
I think we were all pretty tired.
Yeah, it was a long day because it's like 4 hours. Yeah.
Even though having not slept through the night.
I don't know how you were going.
Until I laid down. Because when I lay down, I pretty much went right out.
You did.
But until then, I didn't feel it at all. I was totally fine. I'm surprised that I was able to last that long. Yeah. And learn a big new game in Merchant's Cove.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's a long day for you.
Long day.
Yeah. And then Zach was like, oh, maybe. So Wingspan was the next morning for the tournament play that you guys were going to do. And so Zach's like, well, maybe we should play some Wingspan. And I was like, all right, I'll play Wingspan with you. Quick.
I had just fallen asleep at this point.
Jesse was out cold. I was like, I'll play with you. And so Zach gets the box out. And what happened?
So I opened it up and opened one of the mats up. And I'm looking, and I'm like, yeah, these are not the right mats. Because it's all supposed to be just base game Wingspan. And I opened them up, and they were the Oceania mats. And I was like, shoot, I did not even think of this. I had even went through and recounted all the cards to make sure it was the right amount. Because you, kind of the thing was you'd bring your own copy of the game, or games you were playing, just so that they'd have enough copies to play it. I ended up that I don't think everyone did do that, so it wasn't as big of a deal as I thought it was, but I was just like, dang it, I didn't even think about the boards, because we have the neoprene mat boards, so you just flip them over and you can play with either one, and I hadn't even thought about those then, because I was just like, oh yeah. But then I was like, well, this copy is not going to work for the tournament.
I felt so bad. I was like, what can we do at like 11 o'clock p.m. in Vegas to get you a copy of Wingspan by tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.? I was like, there's got to be a way. This is Vegas. We didn't end up trying anything, but I think you would have been able to figure out something. But turns out you didn't need it. So it was fine.
I just went down there early the next morning. I was like, I'm totally required to have the game. But yeah, once we ended up playing some more, I was like, okay, there's a lot of these people that are not bringing the games, and I don't know if maybe it's because they had groups of people. It could be that, or that they're coming from further away or whatnot. But yeah, it seemed like it wasn't. I don't know what percentage I would say because I ended up playing in the Terraforming Mars one and Wingspan. You just did the Wingspan. I don't know for sure what I would say percentage-wise of the people that were bringing their copies.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
No, but it did not seem
I heard a couple people
overly
hadn't brought.
Yeah, so the next day after we went down to try and grovel with the gods of the World Series of Board Gaming, they're like, oh, you're fine.
After worrying all night.
I've never seen Zach get up so early. He's like showering. He's like, I'm going to go. I got to figure this out. It's like 7:30 a.m. Like, do you think they're going to be down there? I was like, I don't know. But there were. And so we got that sorted. And then we went back to Subway to get some breakfast. And we brought that back. And then you guys ate. And then at 9 o'clock, you had to be back down in the convention center to go.
You're just skipping over this breakfast here. The Subway breakfast sandwich. Maybe the best breakfast sandwich I've ever eaten.
Fueled you.
You were probably just hungry after your long day and long sleep.
Probably. Not a fan of Subway?
Yeah.
Oh my god. I was like, I want one of these every morning for the rest of my life.
It was
amazing.
Eggs on white bread. Mayo, cheese, special. Salt, and pepper. So it's not even like crazy, but
just hit the spot.
Yeah, exactly. So then you guys went down to play Wingspan. There's a nice long line going on, and I said goodbye because they go into this completely other side of the room.
You wished Zach good luck.
I did, and then I was like, Pepper walked kind of quickly, and I was like, after a second, I was like, I didn't say goodbye to Pepper, so sorry, bud. Good luck. I felt bad, but I was like, it was kind of a crush of people, so I was like, I gotta get out of here. So you guys got put into like a whole separate room. They had I went and sat at a table kind of nearby, and then when everyone was in,
trying to sneak in there.
They closed the doors, and they were like, and that was it. And I was like, oh boy, that's pretty serious. So you guys went and played Wingspan.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was the first.
We were actually seated. Our tables were right next to each other. Right. So we were slipping each other cards.
Right.
Didn't work out quite so well.
You must not have slipped me as many.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was. So like I said, the one thing I had been nervous about, I think, was the tournament piece of it. We'd never been to an event or convention or whatever before. So it was just all brand new kind of to us. Didn't know what to expect really at all. So we were kind of just getting taking our first steps into the water. But yeah, this was the part I was the most nervous about. But after getting into the game, I thought it flowed really well, and it didn't feel like anyone. It's the 3-player games I think we both had originally. It didn't feel like anyone was like overly. It's not that people weren't taking it seriously, but it wasn't like it didn't feel like people were not saying any word, and people were just playing as aggressively or kind of overly thinking things out and stuff. It just felt like I was just playing a normal game of Wingspan with 2 other people, and I thought it was a really good experience, especially for a tournament that had some serious stakes to it. It didn't feel like it felt like I could have just been in the open gaming area playing against these people.
Yep.
But granted, I don't know how that would have felt if I had been on like a final table. I'm sure that would have felt a little bit different. But
they looked pretty intense on the videos. But
yeah, same here. It's never quiet. There's always nice, friendly conversation, joking around during the game. No one, like you said, took it too seriously where it was like uncomfortable, which I as well was kind of worried about. Like, these are going to be gamers. But it was always very comfortable.
And then
one of us ended up winning in the first round. Sadly, it was not you. Sadly for you. Happily for me, I was able to get some of my favorite birds, which if you want to see some of my favorite birds, check out our top 10 bird cards in Wingspan video.
Bug.
I was able to get a few of those, especially the common raven, and I was able to win with a score of 91 points to about like 72 and 60-something, and it was feeling good. The engine was going. They both had some pretty good engines too, but you just felt like, okay, I think I've got this. And that was good for like the last third of the game, just to feel confident in that. Just to be like, I can't believe, I think, knock on wood, I'm about to win this game of Wingspan and move on, and I did end up winning, and it was just awesome. Because I was like, in all reality, we're both probably going to be out in the first round. But it was just really nice to actually get a win in there.
Well, and I was super nervous because I wasn't doing anything at this time. Like, it was the first day. I didn't really know there's some open gaming, but I was like, I don't know that I want to go play games. I don't know with people I don't know yet. It's pretty early in the morning. So I actually just waited outside, and I just kept waiting, and I was like, they've got to be coming out at some point. Like, it's 10 o'clock. And I was like, okay, it's 10:30. I was like, what is happening? And then at 11, I was
that's only an hour and a half in. Like, that's a normal game of Wingspan.
I know. But I had started seeing people filter out. And so I was starting to be like, finally at 11, I was like, okay, 2-hour game of Wingspan. I'm like, okay, probably if they're having to do the extra paper things and whatever. But I was like, I saw people coming out. So I went and sat by the door where I said goodbye, and actually got to meet Jeff Hegmeyer, who was on the board of directors, and he was like,
Jeff or John?
Or John. Yep, John. Sorry, John. John, and he was like, do you want to come in and like I'm like, you can just sit on the outer the outer edge of like the tournament area. So I went in there and I saw you guys right away. You were done playing. You were just chatting it up with this poor man that Jesse beat. Mark.
No, I did not. I didn't.
He didn't play with Mark.
Oh,
I played with Mark.
He lost with Mark.
I lost with Mark.
Okay.
I was waiting with Mark because
Okay.
Mark's game was the one that he was waiting because the table next to us had his game.
Oh, that's
so he
right.
was waiting
Okay.
in there, so I was chatting it up with Mark.
Yes.
But yes,
Yeah.
so yeah, we were actually the first table done, and that is a common story about my 2 games that I played. I was the first table done in both the events that I was in. So I don't know if I just got our tables going at a pace that was snappy or what.
Which is odd for you.
Yeah, because
So.
you would have seen probably me come out first if
Yeah.
that was the case.
Yeah.
But no, I thought that after that one, I felt a lot more comfortable. It did have. I think the other thing that made me nervous was there was that sheet you were talking about.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll say we did not. I think that first round we did not use that much.
Did not use it either in our round, which they said, oh, just try to get comfortable with it. Someone came over and said, because later on it'll be a little more enforced, a little more strict with those rules. But in the first round, obviously, just not as important to do that. Just try to get used to it. But yeah, just neither of the players, like I said, it was always pretty calm, just kind of like playing with friends. No one really was like, okay, you have to do this, or make sure you do that. And so it was pretty chill.
Because that was one of my big worries too, is how long was that going to add to the game doing something like that. And then when we first got in there was only 1 sheet at each table, and I was like, I really feel like there should be 1 for each player, because that makes it a little bit easier to do those things. But no, I thought it went really, really well, was run really, really well. I guess, what did you think of your second round?
Yeah.
The second round, well, it starts off.
So you played the second round on Thursday at 1 p.m.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. So we had a little break there in between rounds. We went
Celebrating.
do a little celebrating, and I got a giant banana split from, was it Ben and Jerry's?
Yeah.
And that was fantastic. I was like, I never had a banana split before. It was amazing. So far the food on this day was phenomenal.
It's his day.
But yeah, then the second round, I think there were like 15 tables. So I think they were all like 3-player games. So I'm in the top 45 Wingspan players in the world at this point. But yeah, and then they did have a sheet for each player, which I guess it's a lot fewer players now, so they can do that. And we did stick to the sheet there, which did make it a little more stressful. But it wasn't too hard to do that, but still, just the fact that you are trying to do it does make you think a little longer, and it did definitely add some time to the game and slowed it down a little too much for me personally to overly enjoy it. Getting a call right now from Vegas. They want me back.
Come back.
But yeah, still a fun game of Wingspan. Did not end up winning that one. Some of my favorite birds did get claimed by the other players in that game, but didn't. I think I ended up with a score in the 60s, 70s, and then I think they both had tied around 90 as well. But yeah, still, it wasn't too slow. It wasn't like, it didn't completely kill the game having to use that paper. And Wingspan is one of the simpler games. I think something like Terraforming Mars or some of those more complicated games that I really do not know much about, I feel like that could slow that down a lot more than it does in Wingspan.
Yeah, and I thought too, because it seemed like when we were doing it, we would just talk out our whole turn. I was like, because we're talking out our turns, it didn't seem necessary to have that paper, at least in the first round. I could see maybe the semifinals and finals tables, maybe you could have that to really make it more official, but
I'm like, when it's
I felt like if everyone was kind of listening to what the person was saying and watching what they were doing, it seemed like that worked fine to me. But
I thought so too. Yep.
Well, while Jesse was conquesting for his second Wingspan win, at the time did just keep going on and Jesse was not appearing. But me and you had some time, so we went to the Dice Tower West library that they had there.
we had 2 games.
we played Azul Summer Pavilion, and then we went in. There was a table next to us who had Terraforming Mars out, and they had a teacher wanted sign. So I told Zach, I was like, go teach them how to play. Like, come on, you've got to play it on Saturday. Go practice. And so we went and played, and I haven't played Terraforming Mars in like a year. So we met the lovely Esther and her husband Rod, and we played with them, and that was quite a long game of Terraforming Mars. And we did have.
Yeah, I did finally come out when you were like,
you did.
Just starting.
Yes.
Just a little bit into the
It's like
game.
a couple of rounds, and Jess is like, well, now what do I do? So yeah, we played Terraforming Mars then, and
Yeah, it was really good because I
may
hadn't
have
gotten
won
to
that
play.
one.
I hadn't gotten to play the 4-player version of it in a while, so
Right.
it was good to be able to get that in, and yeah, just feel a little bit more confident knowing that Saturday I was going to have to play that one, and I really just love Terraforming Mars, so definitely up for playing that. But yeah, if you want to see our thoughts on the other games we played or those games we played in the Dice Tower West Library, check out our video. We'll be having that, kind of talking about each of them, ranking them a little bit, but kind of first impression type things. So yeah.
So once I got done winning Terraforming Mars, because I never win it, so I have to just a little bit. We played Paleo with Jesse. He decided that was a game he wanted to play.
I was like, this is a simpler game, pretty easy to play.
Yeah.
Horrendous to set up for your first time playing. There's like 30 different types of cards, and trying to figure out how to set up the decks was quite the trouble. So that definitely hurt it right away, but once we got playing, had a lot of fun. And we actually got to play that at a very special table.
Yes.
Kind of a special gaming table with the raised lip
like
and the
game-
Chip
neoprene.
theory.
Yep.
Game Theory.
Game Theory.
Game Theory.
Chip
And those
Theory.
were
Chip theory game.
those were
Theory.
incredible. I liked those.
Yeah, they were pretty solid tables, and they even gave some away.
They did.
Well, we'll get to whether or
We'll
not.
get to
We'll tell that later. So that was the last game we played on Thursday.
As
then-
we're at the table right now.
Yeah. That'd be awesome. So we played that was the last game we played on Thursday, and then there was a mile mall or something they called it nearby. So we walked to that, and they have a couple of food options. So we got some food. I think that night we got Panda Express. So we did that.
My first time having that, also fantastic.
Very good.
I liked it.
So we did
Okay.
that. We walked back. I think we went to bed. Called it a night. I don't know. Did you watch the Wingspan playoff or anything?
I don't think that was
finals?
on. And that was one of the things, like, I was kind of under the impression that they were going to be kind of live streaming throughout every day, like the whole day. Maybe not necessarily, like, seeing, obviously, when you have 45 games of Wingspan going on, you cannot be watching every single table, but maybe kind of going around from table to table, stay at one for a little bit. That's kind of how I imagined it in my head when they had said, like, oh, we're going to be streaming some of the things, but then they kind of streamed like one finals table each day, it seemed like, and then kind of the semifinals they did one of the games, and the finals they did.
And I wonder if
And I think they're having more videos posted, so maybe they do have the other ones filmed, they just weren't doing them live.
And I wonder if that's because does YouTube maybe only let you do one live video at a time?
I'm not sure.
Maybe.
Possibly. But yeah, that was one thing that I had thought was going to happen, but it didn't. So I don't remember if I ended up watching whatever final was that day. But they did have one on that day, along with Wednesday. I think they had one as well.
Yeah, I think Thursday, was that also the day that we met Del Wayne?
It probably was.
I think so.
Yeah. We met a really nice man who was teaching people how to play Twilight Imperium
4,
and he had a 3D board, I guess, for that. Del Wayne.
Yeah, just like 3 layers of tiles.
Right.
So now instead of just moving
yeah.
across, you can go up or down as well.
Right.
And it sounds like he's
Which
going
is
to be
cool.
at the Dice Tower West convention. So if you go to that, go say hi to Del Wayne because he's super cool.
Yes.
And, so
He had also laminated his cards,
yes,
which was very cool.
it's serious.
Those are awesome.
I liked those a lot more than we don't sleeve a lot of cards. Usually we'd only sleeve them if the game came with sleeves. So pretty much don't sleeve our cards. And every time I play with sleeved cards, it just seems like they're so sharp. The edges are so sharp. but these, like, he had the rounded corners and all
yep.
that. I don't know how long it took him to do this, and I
A
don't
while,
know.
it sounds like.
Yeah, but they were really awesome.
Yeah, especially for those little cards. This makes it so easy to shuffle. Amazing.
So then Friday was kind of a rest day. We slept in. We didn't get going very quickly. And then we went down, and I think we just immediately started playing games. There was also an exhibit hall we should mention. So we walked through that various times. There was the game theory tables, acquisition games, Shiba Games had a table there.
There were a couple other ones, I think, that seemed like they were more war games focused,
Yeah, there was
which I
a
didn't
war
really know as
game.
much about.
And then there was a couple other companies who were like demoing or showing games that they were currently kickstarting. So we walked through there quite a couple of times to get some t-shirts, some poker chips. So then on Friday we did just play games because neither of you had tournament play that day. So we got a lot of ours done. So we started the morning off with Shakespeare. And Jeff, we got to meet a man named Jeff who was like, Shakespeare is great, you're gonna love it. And then he came back, he's like, can I play with you? And we were like, yeah, absolutely. And he showed us how to play Shakespeare, and we really liked that game, and Jeff was super fun to play with.
Yeah. And we played,
Then we played Cat in the Box.
which we learned from Tim,
Yes.
who's kind of the person in charge of Dice Tower West, and kind of probably the library, I think, as well, is kind of his baby. So he taught us how to play Cat in the Box, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Next up we played Dice Throne.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Which, I mean, you can check out our rankings
For
of
a lot of these
the
games.
games, but didn't enjoy that one as much.
Yeah. And then we played Subterra,
Yep.
which was fun.
It's another big one that
yeah.
I think Pepper had been looking forward to.
Yes.
So I think that's the good thing about them having that library there is kind of gives you things to do if you're not in the tournament. And you can play games that maybe you haven't had access to buying, or maybe bigger games that it's like, I'd really like to try this one before I add this huge mega box into my collection because I don't really have a ton of space maybe. So I think that's a great thing to have, that library.
So then about that time,
Yeah.
we got, I think, next up, right?
Yeah, I think we had lunch at Bobby's Burgers or whatever.
Yep.
Somewhere in there was a split in the games, and then somewhere in there, after we had lunch, Jesse pulls out his phone.
We
and
were
he's
looking
like,
for another game to play, and I
he's
got
like,
this text. It's like, hey, this is Carrie from World Series of Board Gaming. You won the raffle to play Terraforming Mars with VIP Stephen Buonocore, the Podfather. And that play would start at 7:30.
Yeah.
Which I think it was probably around 7.
Yeah.
The time that I did that, because I had my phone on mute. So if I hadn't seen that
Oh
until
my
just
gosh!
then,
Can
my
you
God.
imagine?
But yeah, so I responded to that. I said, yes, I'm in.
And we
I said,
were
"Oh,
so
great."
green with envy.
Man,
It was like,
Mr.
come
Guy
on!
that doesn't even like Terraforming Mars that much.
I will say it may be moving up after that. But yeah, so I'm just like, bye guys.
Right. So yeah, so that was a cool thing that they were doing as well.
Some
I can
raffles
kind of read off some of the people that they had.
Yeah.
So they had Stephen Buonocore, who was the guest of honor there. So he was kind of the biggest headliner of the VIPs.
Yeah.
But
Shout out to the Podfather.
then they had Tom Bassel, Paula Deming, David Waybright, Alex Radcliffe, Rob and Christina Rouse,
From Blue Peg.
Chris George, Danielle Standring, and I think they were supposed to have Ruel and Quackalope there, but they were not there. But yeah, I think these were people with. We watched a couple of them. Obviously, the Dice Tower. We've seen Steven on the Dice Tower. Seen Man vs. Meeple, Board Game Co. Then some of the other ones, I don't know if I've heard of as much, but I think I've heard the names.
Yeah.
I haven't watched them as much, but so they had a lot of these celebrities here. Like I said,
Tom
except
Bassel's just
a couple.
walking around, and
Right.
you're like, can I go
Right.
up to him, or am I just like too creepy?
Right, but yeah, so then they were, as one of the things they were doing is they were giving away, or not giving away, they were raffling spots to play games with these people. So it's cool that
we each
we
had,
got
like,
picked for one of them.
5 tickets or so.
Yeah.
And I just split mine between Buonocore and Vassal. I think I put 3 in Buonocore because I had known Terraforming Mars, and I'm like, okay,
Right.
a little more confident with that. Didn't know Cosmic Encounter. Those were the two that I was like, okay,
Yeah.
those are my options. That's what I want. And can't believe my luck. That does seem like the most me thing. Like Terraforming Mars, one of your like top 3 or whatever, top 5 games of all time. And then your brother, who gives you trash on the game.
I know. I was like,
quite a bit.
Come on, Justin, maybe let Zach play.
I offered it.
They won't even know.
He was like, nope. You go.
It's like, you want it.
But
so
no, I thought that was pretty. I like the idea that they let people play with them. I think probably some of these were probably playing games with people anyway. So I don't think it was like, oh, we're not going to play these games at all. Because I saw Tom, he was, I think, playing that Ready, Set, Bet, and I think I saw him take out Nidavellir a few times. I'm sure he was playing other games too.
Space, I think I saw.
I guess I don't know for the other ones as much. I think I saw the Brothers Murph there a few times. I don't think they were one of the guest people, but I think they were playing with some people. Yeah, he was probably playing there. So I'm sure they were playing other games too, but just kind of a special opportunity to get to play with them some more. So that was pretty cool.
So yeah, while I went over that table and kind of waited for the previous game to finish up, you guys played some games.
Yep, we did Unforgiven, the Abraham Lincoln assassination trial, and we also did Sherlock.
Yeah, Holmes versus Mycroft or whatever. So yeah, 2 2-player games. They were pretty good. Kind of a good way to pass some time, and I think those were a couple on my list that wanted to play. Had it 2-player and knew that 2-player games probably weren't going to work that well when all 3 of us were there. But here I was hoping we'd get to play those on the day Jesse played Wingspan, because I'm like, he's going to make the finals. We're going to have all day to do these. But
so then once we got done with that, and you got done with your game with the Podfather, we called it a night and head back. I think we got some lunch, probably, or supper. Sorry, supper at, I think we probably went back to the mall or something. And then Saturday, Zach had to play Terraforming Mars. So you left for that. Jesse and I left to find breakfast. We ended up not being super successful. We ended up just going back to the hotel and getting a Danish and a muffin.
Wow. You guys didn't even get Subway?
We tried to, but they were out of eggs.
Oh.
Because we had walked around. I can't remember where we were trying to go. And then we, tried, and then we go to Subway and then couldn't find it.
I did not have any breakfast before my game of Terraforming Mars.
Yeah, you were.
But I was ready for it. And I had my coffee this time, and it had everything in it because I had actually just bought a brand new coffee with the Prelude expansion just for the tournament, pretty much. So I did have it this time.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't know for sure if everything was in there. I didn't check it the night before, but I was like, it should be all in there because I haven't taken any out, and it's not like I had other expansions mixed in there or anything because I've never owned the other ones. So, then we played Terraforming Mars, and like you said, we had those paper sheets for that as well. This one we did all have our own for the Terraforming Mars. There were a lot of people in the Terraforming Mars tournament. I was surprised at how many, just because it seems like a little bit of a heavier game. But yeah, so we got to playing this one. Was supposed to be a 5-player game, I think, but one of the people that we had at our table didn't end up showing up, so it ended up being a 4-player game. And there were a couple of people at the table that had definitely played the game a lot more than I had. So at some points, I kind of felt like maybe I was not drafting like the way I should, so to say, to stop someone hate draft. But then it's like, well, if I'm hate drafting constantly, then I'm not getting anything that I want.
Yeah.
So I just kind of play the game that I am used to playing, and that was just how it ended up being played. But I found that the sheet wasn't the best for Terraforming Mars. Like the Wingspan one, I think worked because there's not too many things you can do with Wingspan. The Terraforming Mars one was almost it didn't have enough because it just pretty much had costs, and it had. Well, it had a little bit of breakout in cost because it did also have you could do the heat or plant, turning it into kind of raising the temperature or putting out greenery. But kind of the rest of the cost, if you were paying in the titanium or steel, it didn't really break that out. So it's like you're starting to mix the cubes together. So you're using the same cubes for that, and then like your income or anything you'd be gaining from a turn is kind of all in just one generic income thing. So it's like, okay, well, these 2 cubes are gold. This cube is a plant. These 2 cubes are. So I guess I'd have to see how they did in the final. Maybe they did it a little bit different, but that just got a little bit confusing. Because then,
do they need like a paper replica of what the board is?
I don't know. I think they almost would need to break it out even more and be like, oh, this is plants that you've gained. This is whatever that you get energy or whatever you might have gained. I don't know. Then it starts to get to be a pretty big sheet if you do it that way is the thing.
Yeah.
And you almost have too much going on because you don't always need it, but it did happen enough that I felt like it would be nice if it broke out that a little bit more, a little bit better. So I wasn't the biggest fan of it, that sheet. We did end up being the first game done again, even with kind of the sheet. And I think in general it did work. But I would say, I think everyone at the table at least once would wipe, because you'd have the costs on there, and you would have counted out what you just gained. And I think at least once, every time someone would swipe and just put everything in there, including the stuff they were supposed to gain, because it was just easy to not really. Since it was all laying in there, it wasn't like outside of production. Production, you'd just put it there and then immediately put it to whatever you were producing. But kind of during turns, it seemed like it was. I don't know why. It just seemed very easy to just wipe it all and then be like, oh shoot. I was supposed to gain stuff there. I don't think that ever ended up being a problem. We all kind of always knew what it was. But that's why I think you kind of maybe need to change it a little bit. But overall, it did work. But then... And
fun fact.
What's that?
The fun fact.
Oh, yeah. Ended up getting destroyed.
Well, that's not
there was someone...
By who?
Destroyed by the person that ended up going on to win the whole
the ring.
Terraforming Mars ring. And he had actually said at the beginning that he didn't even want to be in Terraforming Mars. He wanted to be in Dune Imperium, that tournament. So I don't know if he was happy by that or not.
Well, he won a ring.
That is true. But yeah, he played the game like obviously I've always kind of played with the same group, so you kind of see similar things over and over and kind of get group thinking sort of things and certain metas. But I feel like that's a good thing about a tournament. Maybe the other players might not have thought it was a good thing because they're like, oh, why is he not doing this? You know, you start to get to think like, oh, this player should do this, so then I can do this, or those types of things, which can throw off other players, but you can learn from those other players, and I'm like, I am shocked that he was able to get his thing to work, because he got like 70-some points, and then the other person that had played a lot got like 47, and then me and the other guy got 45 or 46. So we were all really tight. We were all within a point, but he was about 30 points ahead of us, or 25 points. So it was impressive to watch, and it's just interesting to see how kind of other people play, and it's like, I'll have to try some of those things in possibly future games. So I think that is a good thing. In Wingspan, I don't know if you can see too many more. I don't know that it's... I think there's a little more luck to that as to what birds, and you can kind of already tell what birds will do good things, whereas in Terraforming Mars, until you kind of see some combos, sometimes you might not think of them. So it was just really cool to do that. But
and we should say, I don't think we said, like, for every game that was played, there was a ring given to, like, the winner of that game tournament specifically. So the guy you played against won the Terraforming Mars ring, and so Jesse.
So, there were 16 different games to start off the whole thing. So there was a ring for each one of those. The 16 games, I have them here, were Seven Wonders and Splendor. I think were the two on the Wednesday, and it had Wingspan, Brass Birmingham, Dominant Species Marine, Acquire, Gaia Project, Great Western Trail, Ticket to Ride, Ra, Azul, Catan, Terraforming Mars, Blood Rage, Dune Imperium, and Carcassonne. So some on the lighter side and then some on the extreme heavier side. So had a good mix of games. There were several that we have not played, but we figured, if we get that chance, maybe we'll just have to learn them. But I guess I hadn't really thought that far ahead, because if I had one Terraforming Mars, I don't know that I would have had time to learn all the other ones that I have never played, so that might have been a mistake. But yeah, it was, I think, a good, solid group of games. I think me and Jesse had kind of made a video, which is, I think, kind of how they found us in the first place, talking about what we thought of the games originally, so you can check out our thoughts probably like a year ago today or so.
See how accurate you guys are.
Yeah.
Yeah, so while you were playing Terraforming Mars, Jesse and I were hanging out, getting breakfast, and we played Caper, and that was like the only game we got. Or no, we played Summer Pavilion as well. Yep. We played Azul Summer Pavilion with Charles. We met him, and he wanted to play, so that was great. And then you got done with Terraforming Mars, and...
Yeah, first.
Yeah. And then you came out, and you had signed up to do the Alhambra Outer Ring event.
Because, they had some Outer Ring events going on as well, which is something I don't think we had looked at as much. I think I had a picture of those as well. So what did we have here? Outer Rings. I think on Wednesday they had Vegas Showdown. On Thursday they had Scythe, Castle of Burgundy, Small World, Julius Caesar, Lost Ruins of Arnak, and Fantasy Realms. Friday they had Concordia, Root, Star Wars Rebellion, Age of Steam, Formula D, and Lost Cities. And then Saturday they had Hollorato, Architects of the West Kingdom, Stone Age, Twilight Struggle, Alhambra, and Cascadia. So it looked like, at least when I signed up, there were only like 2 people signed up, and I was like, I'll give it a try. I haven't played Alhambra in probably 6 or 7 months.
I think you were supposed to have a copy of it if you were wanting to play it. So keep in mind, if you're looking to go to it, to bring some of these games if you're thinking you're going to want to play an Outer Ring event.
But
yeah. So it was good. I think me and you got lunch, and then when you got done with that, we went and played a bunch of board games.
And that's fine. I still haven't eaten.
Yeah.
I wasn't that hungry.
Yeah, it was weird. So we played after that. After that, we did Azul Queen's Garden. We played Fantasy Realms, and then we also played Wonderland War. And we were in that open game area until it closed. And what's funny about it is that we are the cringiest that day, and we actually wore our Charterstone matching shirts for our faction. So I'm like a bright blue shirt, bright red shirt, bright green shirt, or yellow shirt, and I was like so cringe. And
primary colors.
It's terrible, but board game, gotta do what you gotta do. And we actually Wayne was running the Dice Tower library that day, and he was like, what's going on? So we explained it was Charterstone. He hadn't played it yet, but we had a lot of, and then we actually
call this the Charterstone group. Yep,
the Charterstone group. And then I think we ended up getting a picture with Tom Bassel that day, and Wayne. We got a picture with Wayne, so Jesse, I'm guessing we'll insert some pictures here for you guys. And then we also got to meet Josh Ward. Came up to us on that day, and he is on the Stonemeyer Games team. And so he does rulebook and other design items.
Yeah, it sounds like he helps with the playtesting and some of those things as well, and he's also one of the moderators in a lot of the Facebook groups. So pretty involved with Stonemeyer Games, and we brought up that we were doing that. We were the group that were doing the Stone Timber.
So that's you.
He had heard of it, so
yeah, he was.
That was cool. Good at least. But yeah, it was cool meeting someone else that really loves Stonemeyer Games, kind of like we do. So it's
we didn't think to get a picture with them, but we should have. The first thought in our brain is not hey, let's get a picture with you, but
right.
It was just so great to talk to him about stuff. And,
I feel like we're not people that always go and get pictures, but yeah.
But we'll do better. If we go next year, I think we're going to try and vlog the event. So
we just I think we really were unsure of kind of how things would work and
what the expectations were.
Yeah, and what they were, because I was like I said, my understanding was that it was going to be live stream the whole time. So I'm I don't know if they're going to have cameras around and what's going on, and don't want to kind of get in the way of things. So or what you have access to.
Right.
So
yeah. So we got to meet Tom Bassel. He actually came up to our table while we were playing Wonderland War because we had a teacher wanted and no one was coming to help us. And I think we got one round in the game, and Tom's like, "Do you still need help?" And we're like, I think we're playing it now. And he's like, oh, too bad. So we could have had Tom Bassel teach us a game, but we missed our opportunity.
Right. He's like, there is a lot going on in that game,
Yeah.
so if you have any questions, let me know.
Yeah.
So I was like, that would have been nice
But
about 30
he
minutes
just, like,
ago.
came out of nowhere, like,
Right.
probably, like, from behind, like, to my back, and just someone comes up and says something, and I went, Tom Bassel.
Who is this 8-foot man?
And like we've seen him walking around the whole time, and we're just like, oh, we need to go say hi to Tom Bassel, but like don't want to be like, because he doesn't consider himself a celebrity, but I would say he's a celebrity to
Especially
us.
in the board game
Yeah.
community.
In the community. So, but that was fun. That was a fun night, and our cringy shirts and everything. So after that, I think you guys went and got Buffalo Wild Wings. I went to bed, and that was the end of Saturday, our last full day of the event, and then we moved on to Sunday.
Yeah, which was a little bit different of a day because kind of all the regular ring event tournaments were kind of finishing up or had been finished up, and really it was just the semifinals and the finals that day. So kind of anyone who had won one of those individual
Getting down
tournaments
to that
was going to be
25 thou.
was going to try to compete for that 25,000.
Yeah.
So we kind of got up a little later and watched the Ticket to Ride semifinal on YouTube.
Yep.
They were streaming that one, so that was really that was actually funner to watch than I would have thought because I wasn't sure. I was like,
intense.
I don't know how this, because obviously the thing you compare it to is like the World Series of Poker. And that can definitely lead to some interesting moments. But then in that one, I feel like you kind of have personalities, like some of the people that you watch play. If you've ever, watched it, most of the time it seems like they have like a, what's his name, Dave Helmuth, or whatever, or Phil Helmuth. Yep. Yeah, I knew Dave didn't sound quite right, but yeah, or other celebrity or people like that, and then it kind of can create some funny moments and stuff. I think they're used to kind of being in that environment, whereas here you're kind of just throwing people that may have never been on camera or whatever together, and you don't really know how that's going to work. And then you've got kind of commentators who obviously know a lot about the games, but have also probably never commentated on a game being played. So it's a kind of just a mix of things that's like, we're just going to throw this dart at the wall and we'll see how it kind of works. So I wasn't sure if it was going to work, but yeah, it was actually pretty exciting.
Yeah, it was pretty good
to watch.
So that was exciting, and there was actually 2 double ring event winners, so 2 people actually won 2 rings, and so we got to watch one of the games. I think his name was Nick, play Ticket to Ride. So we got to watch that. That was great.
And get all the winners.
There you go. And then after that, we went down and played. We played It's a Wonderful World. We met back up with Mark, who from the beginning of our story. We actually got to hang out with Mark all day. That was really great. He's super fun. So we taught him It's a Wonderful World. I think he really liked that game. Then we went on the search for lunch.
Because the library had kind of closed up then around noon. So that was one thing too that I was like, especially since kind of the closing ceremonies and stuff weren't until like 5. I kind of wish it had stayed open just a little bit later than that, but I do understand that you kind of have volunteers having that open and stuff.
How many cards?
Got to get
20
it away.
Some cards of games.
Right.
So.
Trying to pack those back up. So I get it, and I don't know kind of what timing they had to be in these places and stuff. So I can understand it, but I think it would be a little bit nicer if they kind of had it run until, but they still had an open gaming area if you had your own games or whatever.
Yeah. So then I think somewhere in there in the morning, I think we watched them. So after the semifinal is done, we watched the winners of those games. So the final 4, we watched them pick the final games. And so we watched that. That was pretty exciting because they drew chips out of the bag and stuff. So then they went to go play. Final game was Dune Imperium.
Right. It couldn't be a game that any of them had played previously, so it couldn't be any of the 4 semifinal games, and it couldn't be any of the games that got them originally into the tournament, so that had eliminated like half the games. And then they each got to pick one game without communicating with the others that they didn't want to be out of, or the final game out of the remaining games. And I think 2 picked...
Raw? Or dominant species?
I guess. I don't know.
Guy,
I don't think they actually said
they
what
didn't say
one
which
was
ones.
double.
But three were eliminated.
Three were eliminated, so one was Great Western Trail, one was Raw, and the other one was...
Was it Terra? No.
What was it?
What was that one?
Guy?
I honestly don't remember.
Katana?
What was the
It
other
must have been... It had to be
Terraforming
one
Mars?
of the ones
Oh yeah,
that they
Terraforming
won,
Mars.
right?
It was Terraforming Mars. So yeah, and then so that left. I think I don't know. To me,
Four games?
it felt like the big game that people had kind of murmured, like, oh, this is the game we don't want being played in the final, or the game that people don't want to play in general. I think was Dominant Species Marine. So that left that one open. So it was kind of like one of those things, like, were they all fine? Maybe they were fine playing. I don't know if they were fine playing that one, or were they all expecting the other players to pick that one? So it was like one of 5 options or something to possibly be the final game, and then it ended up being Dune Imperium, which I think was a pretty solid game to be the final game for something like this, where it was. I wouldn't say like Carcassonne and Catan are simple games, but it wasn't like. I think it still would have felt good if it had been one of those, just because they're classics and kind of have grown the whole hobby. But at the same time,
Something like Carcassonne, there's not that many tiles. And
Right.
when you have a 4-player game,
Yeah.
you're not touching very many.
But I
Right.
don't think either one of those was going to be allowed to be the final,
well,
though.
Yeah.
Because of the winners in the circle.
right.
So,
But
Yeah,
so
so
I
they-
think that was a
yeah.
good final one that ended up being.
So they went off and played. We went and got some lunch, hung out for a bit because we had both checked out of our hotel and the Dice Tower Library wasn't open anymore. So then we came back.
Walked all the way to Chick-fil-A only
Yes.
to realize it's Sunday. And
Yeah.
they're closed.
And
Which we
they-
had Chick-fil-A, I think, like one
The
of the
night,
nights
yeah.
previously, which was, oh my god, my first time having Chick-fil-A.
It was so good.
It was so good.
Pepper finally got out of the house for this.
Finally left. Yeah, so then we hung out with Mark for a couple of hours, and then they were kind of getting close to the end, so we walked back, and then I think we played a game of Metro X, just hanging out, and then
And it was one of the things, our flight was delayed.
Yes.
So that's why we were doing a lot of
we're
this.
supposed to fly out at like 6:50 or 6:30 or something like that, so I was like, we're probably gonna have to go at like 4, and then I got a text saying that our flight got pushed back to 9, so I'm like, oh, we don't need to be there until 7, it's a 12-minute drive, so I'm like, oh, okay, we can hang out, and then I got a text saying it moved up to 8, and I was like, oh my gosh, it was just kind of like, I don't know what's happening, and so we ended up staying through all of the ceremony. They announced the
'Cause,
winner.
we didn't think we were going to make that, but
Yeah, and then we hung out a little bit longer, and then we went and watched the ceremony of them giving away the checks and the tables and the bracelets, and it was really fun. And that was
That
then
was
we
pretty awesome.
got
It
a
was a
picture
lot
with
of fun.
Mark, and then we jetted out of there because I thought we had gotten a text, or I got an email or a text or something, and it was confusing because they said like 6:50 or something, and I was like, oh no, it's like 5:30, or no, it was like 4:30 or almost 5 o'clock at that time. And
no,
I
it was
like,
5:30.
I was like, we gotta go.
I was
yeah, it was
like,
5. Yeah.
Because that's what I was worried about. I was like,
Yeah.
if they change it back, then we're going to be in trouble.
Yeah. So I was like, we gotta go.
And you tell me that, and then we get there, and it's like, we're not actually leaving till then. So
I
I'm like,
know.
I don't know if they had accidentally sent it or something.
Yeah, no, the way they worded it was like, because of your 6:50 flight was pushed back or something like that, but when I read it as like the flights changed to 6:50.
So she makes us run across the hotel.
I'm sorry.
Leave your bag.
Better that than I be
That's
wrong
true.
the other way.
No, it was good. But that did make it a little stressful
It was
for
a
us.
little,
But yeah,
but we got out of there.
That closing ceremony was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
We got our picture with Mark. We actually made.
Yeah.
Well, you made Alex
were the
from Board
nearest.
Game Co. take a picture of us.
They were the nearest people to us that looked like they could work a smartphone.
Wow,
So I was like,
he was very nice that he did it.
Yes.
I kind of felt bad. I'm like, I wouldn't mind a picture with him too, but he
Why
kind of
didn't
just
you say
ran off.
something? Oh,
He just kind of
okay.
ran off
Okay.
right away. So
I see.
I'm like, I don't
Shamed.
want to waste too much of his time now that you shamed him.
Sorry,
But
my bad.
Like, not with you.
Yeah.
Good Mark.
Yeah. So it was great, and I think they were really the World Series of Board Gaming group was really proud of everything. I think they should be. It was a great event that they put on, and just like the magnitude of people that they had there, like I thought it was good, and it's only going to get bigger, I think. So
Like I said, they didn't run into any like examples of people cheating or just
No bad
all
behavior.
All went very smoothly.
Yeah.
And,
Board
from
gaming people
our
out there are
experiences,
good
it seemed like
people.
that was good. But
They're good
yeah, I don't know, because I've heard multiple times that people are shocked because they're like, "Oh, I know of these Magic the Gathering people," and so I'm like, maybe this isn't a common thing of just people being pretty chill about it, pretty laid back, easygoing, not really freaking out about losing or someone doing a move that maybe hurts them more or something.
It's probably
But yeah,
more
it sounded
expensive.
like Magic the Gathering or something. Some of those must get pretty hostile or something because people are like, oh, I'm glad to hear that because I know of this and that's not fun. So I'm like, okay, well, that makes me a lot more because like I said early on, one of our biggest concerns was whether or not it would feel like that, like too intimidating. But now after how well this went, I was like, well, now I'm definitely way more willing, almost wanting to for sure go back next year. We'll have to see if it fits in our schedule, but I'm definitely 100% open to going back because that was really well run for first time event. There were some hiccups, but I think when you start involving hundreds of people, things are gonna not go exactly as you want.
I mean, our little tournament doesn't always go exactly how I want. That's like 10 people.
Right, yeah. We do on yearly with, and that's with family and friends, so it's like people you kind of know and can rely on and stuff, and sometimes things don't go exactly how you plan for that either, so it's like you start bringing out this magnitude and stuff and people coming from all over. I should probably mention all the winners of the ring events and the final winners.
Them.
So for the Seven Wonders ring, we had Richard Boyes, and I may be pronouncing names wrong. I apologize in advance. So I think he was the first one to actually get a ring, win a ring. So it's pretty cool. We'll be go down in history. I think he's the first one ever.
Seven Wonders isn't there next year, is it?
I think it is.
Okay. I know some got taken.
Yeah, and we will probably have another video kind of previewing next year's games. That. Then we had Acquire, was won by Phil Cottrell, or Cottrell, I'm not sure. But that was one that we have not played. So luckily that's why we didn't win, because we didn't want to possibly have to play a game we hadn't played before. But then we had the Azul winner was Luca Alaria. And I think I had actually seen him in the finals. I think he was in the finals of the Brass Birmingham tournament.
He was. Got second.
And I feel like he might have been in the finals of another one, but I'm not 100% sure.
Well, him and one of the other winners that we'll read off here were in some kind of a gaming group together where they practice with each other. The Gaia Project winner.
Oh, okay.
Because I think they shouted each other out at one point.
Okay. And then the Blood Rage winner was Hanshi Lee. I think that he might have been... I don't remember what the last game done was. That got a ring. It was either Blood Rage or one of the other ones. Brass Birmingham was Josh Boley. Carcassonne was Rebecca Beach. I think she was the only woman to win, which was pretty cool. Pretty cool to see some there, and hopefully next year they'll have even more. And Catan was Brent Jecklin. And then Dominant Species Marine was Nicholas Henning, who we may hear again. Dune Imperium was Graydon Baker, who we may also hear again. Gaia Project was Cliff Flashenhar. That one, I probably mispronounced that one. Great Western Trail was Nick Henning again, so he won both Great Western Trail and Dominant Species Marine. So he definitely is probably a pretty hardcore gamer there. Then Raw was Lloyd Wasson, and Splendor was Graydon Baker again, so he had won that. And what was it, Azul? No,
Splendor.
Splendor, yep. And then Terraforming Mars was Levi Marino, who was the one that I got whooped by. Ticket to Ride, David Meredith. And Wingspan, Jeff Harden. So, a lot of great players there, I would say. So, next year, if we do go, it'll be probably our names just up there 4 times each. We'll play 4 different games and have 4 rings apiece.
Well, then the final, so then these all got broken out. And so then the final 4 from these, I guess, what are they, 14?
It'll be all the way at the top.
Oh, okay. So the final 4, and in 4th place was Luca Alaria, so the winner of Azul. And then the 3rd place was Brent Jecklin. He was the winner of Catan. And the 2nd place was Clifford Fashionhar, and he was the winner of the Gaia Project. And the champ, the World Series
First ever
winner of $25,000 was Hanshi Lee. So congratulations to him. He won Dune Imperium.
I think he said he had a board game channel as well to teach people in Chinese.
Yes, he says he does a Chinese language, or it's in Chinese.
And I was trying to find it, and I could not find.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's written in Chinese, and that's why I couldn't find it.
Yeah, he had
what was it? Worthy
QR
opponent.
code.
Worthy opponent or something. So. Yeah.
So he drove over from LA to come play. So.
Yeah. So none of the double ring winners ended up making the final, which is interesting.
Yeah, we did watch the Ticket to Ride one had Nick Henning, one of the double ring winners in it, and I was like, I just didn't know who was gonna win it. I was between 3 people, and I was always like, it's her, it's him, it's him, it's her, it's him, it's him, and then the winner, I was like, he was one that I was like, maybe, but I really wasn't thinking. I thought for sure Nick was somehow going to pull this out, and then Cliff won, and I was like, wow, that's killer. That's killer.
Because, they played it definitely differently than I think we do, where we like to complete a lot of the a lot of the actual tickets. They just kind of spam the trains and try to go for longest train, try to get a lot of point things, because I thought, oh, well, we'll get to the tickets, and then have some extra scoring, but almost no one moved any points at all from the tickets.
No. And Cliff, we found out through the commentators, actually when he found out the night before that he was going to be playing Ticket to Ride, he played Ticket to Ride 8 times between when he found out he was playing it and the actual play of it. I think he said on like the app or online or something. I was like,
that's crazy.
It paid off because he got second over, he won Ticket to Ride, and then he got second, I think, overall. So, I was like, hoofda.
It was worth it. It was worth the time.
Yeah.
I don't know if he would have been able to do that if he was trying to practice for brass, though.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'd been able to fit 8 games of brass in between.
Yeah.
But you never know.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of great stuff.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. It was so neat to be like in a group of people that love everything.
Yeah.
Like you'd see people playing. Like, we saw so many times, we saw, like, Ark Nova out, or Dune Imperium. I mean, people were practicing, but then, like, all these games that were out, and you're like, I played that one, and I played that one, I love that one, and you're like, everyone's walking by, like, that's a great game, or whatever, and it's just really cool to share in that with other people.
Yeah, for sure. Just a lot of really nice, awesome people that we met, too.
Board gaming people are good people.
Right, yeah. I hadn't even thought about that, but it was great that the library had a lot of the... I'm assuming it probably had all the games that were in the tournament, so it was good. I think a lot of people were practicing those games some more, so that was really cool to see. I think if you probably looked at what was played most, it was probably mostly the tournament games.
Yeah.
But since we probably knew we weren't going to be the best of the best, we were fine with just learning a lot of new ones, which is a good thing for it as well. Because, I think it's good to have that there just because, and I don't think there's a way to fix this. My only other complaint would be, it's not really a complaint, it's just a acknowledgement of if you lose the first round, you don't really have anything else that you're planned to do that day. But you never really know. And if went to, I don't know how easy it is to go to shows in Vegas if you wanted to, if you need to book them ahead of time. But then you can't really plan for that. Because I'd even heard, I think one of the players didn't think they were going to do well at once, so they planned a show for that day. And then it was kind of the game they ended up doing the best at and kind of made it right up to the clock. They didn't end up, I think, winning it all, but kind of got to the second to final round, so they... were really sneaking up on when they had to go to that show, so that would be the only thing is it kind of, maybe you make it farther than you'd expect to, and then kind of ruins your plan. Not really ruins your plans because you're still getting to be in the tournament, which is the funnest part of the whole thing. But it can make it hard if you want to kind of do other things in Vegas outside of that. Yeah. But if you're fine just playing new games at the library or practicing your other tournament games, I think it works really well.
And that's all we did. I didn't even try looking for other stuff because I'm like, I know that even if he doesn't win, we're probably going to be just playing board games the whole time.
Yeah, and for sure they needed the library there. Like if they didn't have that, then it would just probably wouldn't have been that great of an experience. But just to pair it with that library as well, so guests as yourself who aren't competing, or possibly if you do get eliminated, you still have a ton of games to play and to learn, and possibly with some of your favorite gaming celebrities as well.
All right. We heard that you got to play with the Podfather.
I didn't win the game, but I even placed better than him in the game, so I can...
Well, he didn't get last, and that was all that mattered.
That was all that mattered to him.
Yeah, so that was our experience at the World Series board gaming event. It was really great. So glad we went.
Yeah, it was an awesome experience. I think it was a great one to go to for our first board game event or convention, just because I don't think there were too many people there that it became overwhelming. But at the same time, it did still feel like you were kind of interacting with more people than you would if you were just kind of playing board games by yourself or going to your friendly local game store to kind of play with some people there. It had a bigger feeling than that. So
if you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. Like I said, if we look at going next year, if it fits in our schedule, we're going to look at vlogging it. So if you're interested in that, also let us know down below.
Yeah, otherwise we're going to probably have a couple other videos on talking about next year's and stuff. So check those out as well. Maybe if we do decide to go for sure too, maybe we'll do some content on maybe the games we're going to play or practicing up our tips on those games, because we definitely know how to play these games really well.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I hope to see you on the next video. And as always, don't forget to
keep on nibbling
on our content. And those Subway sandwiches. And a banana split.